What if I told you that you can spend less time coding and more time analyzing the data and extracting meaningful and impactful insights for optimal decision making? If that sounds like you and wondering how you do it, then you're at the right place, and please continue watching till the end. I'm Manjunath for Data Science Galaxy. In a real world setting, always remember, skills are greater than degrees and certificates put together. Don't get me wrong. Degrees and certificates are important. What matters the most are the skills you have to make the data work to solve the business problems. The skills that I'm talking about, therefore, are the skills that you need to extract insights. And for that purpose, you cannot afford to spend time on coding endlessly. In fact, you need to spend more time on data analysis and less time on coding. If you're wondering how you're going to do it, don't you worry. I'm here to show you exactly that. In fact, I'll take far less than a minute for coding and executing, and therefore write exactly 3 lines of code and not a line more, and show you meaningful and impactful analysis. Hope you are excited to see this in action. Let me demonstrate this right away. As I indicated, the motivation for this video is to make sure you're going to spend more time on data analysis and less time on coding. And therefore, I'm going to talk about what is needed. As you can see, I've launched RStudio, and this is how the RStudio interface looks like. So I'm going to write exactly 3 lines of code. First line is the library that I need to load. I'm going to load a library that is built in for Titanic dataset and execute by running the command here. Then I'm going to load another library that I think it's important for us to understand this. How I'm going to minimize the code is by invoking a library called rpivot_table, and you can go ahead and run this to load it into the runtime environment. A word of caution, I've already taken care of installation of the libraries and therefore do not have to run installation command multiple times. If in case, if we run this library function and it breaks or it shows up error, that essentially means the Titanic or rpivot_table in this case are not installed already. For that, easiest way in a user interface, if you want to do, go ahead and invoke this from the package tab, and then you can type here, like for example, if you want to invoke rpivot_table, keep typing it and select that and ensure at all times to check this checkbox. Default is checked, ensure it is always checked, because it takes care of the dependencies in a default mode. So install it, and only requirement is you have to be online for doing this. Okay, I'm going to cancel it because I've already installed. And there is a programmatic way of installing using install.packages. I presume many of you are comfortable with respect to R programming. So the 2 libraries are already taken care for loading into the runtime environment. I'm going to invoke using rpivot_table the Titanic training data set. So I'm going to simply type Titanic train data set, and I'm going to execute this. See what happens. Can you see it? It got populated in the right bottom portion here. I'm going to zoom it. Give it a second rather, and voila, you see interactive pivot table implemented in R using exactly like I promised 3 lines of code, nothing less, nothing more. So you can see here, it is about a Titanic dataset, a popular one at that. Many of you would be already comfortable in terms of the understanding and the context here. Just to quickly go through for the data dictionary part of it for elaboration. This is all about the Titanic ship, the passengers traveled, and the passengers who survived and who did not. A popular data set used in academic parlance to teach the basics of certain things. Let's just talk about the variables themselves. This is a unique ID identifying each passenger. This is a target variable, a categorical variable if you will, which is talking about basically a passenger survived the travel or not. This is the passenger class. The passenger class could be that of category 1 or class 1 or class 2 or class 3 for that matter. Survival, 0 is no and 1 is yes. This is the name of the passenger. This is the gender of the passenger. This is the age of the passenger. This tells you about sibling spouse on board. This talks about the parent children or the number of parents or the children on board. This is the ticket information. This is the price of the fare. This is the cabin, and this is embarked. That takes values like Cherbourg, Queenstown, and Southampton. So it got a mix of numeric and categorical variable. Like for example, age is a numeric variable, sex, survived, embarked, etc. are categorical. For that matter, fair is also a numeric variable. So it's a typical supervised classification setting. So like I mentioned, you have to spend more time on data analysis here. Just to make sure you get excited, I'm going to show you a few things here. Let's just say the interest to analyze here is to see gender-wise survival of the passengers. So for that, allow me to drag this. I'm going to drag this sex into this column, and you already see it populated. What is it saying as a tabulated output? Female travelers 314, male travelers 577. Therefore, total number of travelers aboard is 891. So this is a good snapshot to have. Quickly we got into the focus area of data analysis here. I don't want you to lose sight of that. On top of it, you could do multiple things here for analysis by drag and drop, because the idea and the focus is data analysis to generate meaningful insights for whatever decisions you want to do or whatever may be the objectives in the larger scheme of things. Allow me to drag this survived into this. Notice here we have again a tabulated version of it, which is clearly telling you of the people who survived, that is belonging to category 1, 233 were females and 81 who did not survive are also females. So therefore 314 passengers female traveled, out of which 233 survived the travel, 81 unfortunately did not. Out of 577 male passengers, 109 survived, 468 did not. Out of total of 891 passengers, 549 did not survive, 342 survived. How quickly we got to this kind of input? Yeah, you can see here when I'm exploring, I'm limiting myself to, let us just say, the tabulated output, okay, which is more on the numerical side of things for analysis. Exploratory data analysis, holistically speaking, is a function of numerical analysis and visual analytics. So therefore, for data analysis, you got to employ a lot of visuals for your meaningful insights, because visualization as a medium aids decision making. It speeds up the decision making process. So for that, just for get a glimpse and a flavor of what you could do for data analysis using particularly the interactive pivot tables in our environment, I'm going to drive our attention to the left top drop down box. Let's just quickly take a look at the horizontal bar chart. Let me just click it. Voila, you have this segregation on the y-axis. This is the gender, female and male, and the header says clearly count versus sex by survived. So you have the count here on the x-axis and the gender on the y-axis. The moment I hover my mouse, it clearly shows you 81 did not survive, represented in blue, and 233 who did survive, represented in red, are all females. Coming to the bottom portion of this graphic, 468 who did not survive, represented in blue bar, are males, and 109 who did survive, represented again in the red bar, are males. So how easy to get to some insights. So what is it telling? If you look at blue bar here for male and blue bar here for female, the classic insight that's revealing a story or a narrative in itself is, out of all the passengers who traveled, majority of the passengers who did not survive happened to be males. Out of all the passengers who traveled, majority of the females who survived the travel. Very, very revealing in itself. So that's where the power of visual analytics is. And therefore, how quickly you can do data analysis by using a combination and culmination of numerical and visual analytics is the key for data analysis. All this was achieved by writing very, very few lines. In fact, to go back to the coding, I wrote exactly 3 lines. So if I can think of taking any other chart that you could think of, let's just say I'm interested to see what is area chart, something interesting as a drop down. I can tell you for sure if I can point to here. So 109 males it's revealing as survived, and on the other extreme 468 males who did not survive. Who did not survive for males is higher in number as compared to who survived for male category. Look at, this is the descending slope here, and this is the exact opposite of what is happening. Not exactly in terms of the magnitude, but in terms of contrast. See here, if you look at, this is for female, 81 who did not survive, and 233 females who survived the travel. So how beautifully we could get into these things, right? If you were to just slice and dice with another dimension, okay, to spend more time on the analysis. Let us just say I'm going to get passenger class into this for classification. See this, it is telling a different story in itself, okay? It is lending itself naturally for interpretation. Let's just spend a minute on this, or a few seconds if you will, okay? 300 males is what the count is, okay? It is showing me clearly in the red depiction. So the blue line here is for the females. It's clearly giving you the details of gender-wise category of people who survived and which passenger class it is. 300 male passengers in passenger class 3 did not survive, and 77 male passengers in passenger class 1 did not survive. Passenger class can be first class, second class, third class. You need to keep that in mind. Like for example, here if I can see 6 females probably in passenger class 2 and things of that nature. Okay, so same depiction if I were to do it using a different chart. Let us just go ahead and not the count. I'm taking something different here. I should have gone to, let's say, bar chart. Yes, this gives you different way of depiction for creating a coherent story on this. So with this, I'm going to stop here with the hope that you found this interesting, and more importantly, you were attracted to the idea of doing more of data analysis than spending endless time coding. Okay, so my limited point therefore in the real world setting is to not to discount coding, which by all means is an enabler, but spend more time on the data analysis as a function of the context. It is more of a illustration of how we can do with minimalistic code more of the data analysis in the larger scheme of things. But in the real world setting, you've got to be spending more time, really speaking, on data analysis. To that extent, I hope you found this video useful and liked it. If so, please give it a like, subscribe if not done already so, share it with your community, and of course, hit the bell icon for notifications. This is Manjunath for Data Science Galaxy signing off. Bye-bye and take care.